Hello, Dan Coleman here, aka Coleman the Wizard, and I've been working in the digital marketing space, specifically around e-commerce, since the late 1990s. And today I want to talk to you about something that I learned way back in the beginning of my marketing career that I still lean on as a technique today. And I think it is something that if you kind of grasp the concept and the broader concept behind the concept, if you like, it is something that can really sort of give you a newfound clarity on not just what you are doing when you're running marketing campaigns, but why you are doing what you're doing as well. So stick with me and hopefully you'll find it enlightening. So one of the things we were taught in mathematics was how to build up from first principles. That meant that you didn't necessarily need to memorize complex formulas. What you could actually do was, if you understood kind of certain foundational concepts, then you could apply those and you could logically build these up into more complex applications from there. So to be honest, more than 30 years since I last studied any mathematics, I have forgotten almost all of it. But something that I have actually held on to is this notion that if you really grasp kind of some first principles about a topic and you use those and apply those consistently and kind of in the right context, then actually you can use those to solve what seem initially to be some quite complex problems. So for example, whenever I'm learning a new marketing platform, I will think about, where does this fit in with certain fundamental marketing principles, and how it helps me to kind of gain not just an understanding of how I might learn to use the platform itself, but where that platform fits in among other kind of aspects of my digital marketing campaigns. So today I'm going to give you an example of how I apply that first principles mindset to marketing. But first I'm going to need to go back deep into the past and explain actually how I got into marketing in the first place and where some of these kind of first principles actually came from and how they got into this grey old brain here. So after I sacked off my failed attempt at a maths degree, I decided that what I actually wanted to do with my life was get into computer graphics and become a computer graphics artist. So that was where my studies took me. And on completing that phase of my study, I found myself being offered a couple of entry-level roles in kind of the video game industry. But I quickly realised that these were not going to pay me particularly well, and I probably, if I'm honest, did not have the talent as a graphic artist, as the same level of talent as some of the other guys that I studied with who did go that route, and I just figured, you know what, let's see what else is out there, and found that actually I could earn 3 times as much if I went into IT, particularly as all of the work on the Y2K and the Millennium Bug was starting to kick in. So IT guys were in short supply, and even relatively untrained monkeys, but with strong aptitude like myself, could kind of wander into some quite nicely paid contracts there. So that was the route I took. Now, fortunately for me, once we dealt with all of the Y2K issues and the Millennium Bug was kind of put to bed, this was around the time that kind of the internet was coming up, and I was really excited by that. I was actually working within a marketing company at the time as their kind of techie, and as far as they were concerned, the internet, it ran on computers, so who better to get involved in it than the IT guy, yours truly. Now I figured, right, there is a crossover here between, this is about applying marketing to a technical discipline. So I figured, right, I had better learn some marketing properly here. Started reading everything that I could find out about it. Now the problem was, because digital marketing, as we kind of came to refer to it as, didn't really exist at the time. We were, say, it was kind of the internet was largely kind of sort of techies sort of exploring how they could turn kind of this into businesses back then. So if you wanted to learn about marketing, you didn't learn about it in the digital realm. You learned about what had happened, what were the kind of the marketing techniques that were used in the offline world, and then he figured out which ones were relevant and how they could apply to this new kind of digital ecosystem. So that's what I did. I was reading books, going back probably as far as the 1950s on mail order marketing, advertising, branding, distance selling through catalogs. That was a really kind of important one when you're talking about kind of e-commerce catalogs. So I would consume everything I could. And there was this concept that I stumbled across, and I can't remember exactly which book that I first read about it in, but it would have been around this time. This concept that's known as AIDA. It's a marketing model. It was first documented actually in the late 1800s, and so even by the time I was reading about it, it was more than 100 years old. Now, what fascinated me about that was, and I'll explain a little bit about what it is in a moment, but it even though it was a 100-year-old kind of marketing model, I instantly understood it and could instantly recognize it as something that was fundamentally true. And I could also instantly understand how it would apply to all of these other marketing books that I was reading about, advertising and kind of mail order marketing and stuff like that. So I could understand how it applied to that, and also how it could potentially apply to the way that I was researching product and ultimately buying product on the internet, and I assume how many other people were. So this became something that I put that in my kind of marketing fundamentals locker, and it has stayed there ever since. So what actually is it? Well, AIDA in a nutshell it's an acronym that stands for attention or awareness, interest, decision and action. And what it's actually doing is it's describing the kind of the mental steps that a person goes through from not knowing about a product or service to actually purchasing that product or service. And now you will have heard about this, if not in these terms, you'll have heard about it in terms like the funnel. The funnel is the common way of describing it: top, mid, bottom funnel, etc. Now, the first thing to understand, and one of the common mistakes that's made about the funnel, or kind of AIDA, or anything kind of similar sort of marketing model like this, is it's an assumption that this is something that we enact on the customer, right? It's actually not. It is something that the customer will do to themselves, right? It's unavoidable. This is the mindset that they go through regardless of the product they're buying. And you can examine this in your own kind of purchase behaviours. You will find that it does ring true if you are absolutely honest with yourself. And I've played this game myself. Like I've looked at things that I've bought, ranging from just grabbing impulse buying a chocolate bar at the checkouts in a supermarket, to a really considered purchase like a car. And actually the steps that your brain goes through are all the same. So it's not something that we as the retailer are necessarily enacting on someone, but what we are doing is we are providing signposts along that journey, and then it's down to the customer to choose whether or not to follow those signposts. And the clearer we signpost each stage, the more likely it is that they are going to follow the route that we've kind of laid out for them. But it is not on us to force them to follow that route. And so when you hear people like talking about driving people through the funnel, it's not. They're not passengers of ours. We are providing one of many maps, and hopefully we are making our route more appealing than our competitors are making that route. But ultimately it's down to the customer to choose. Okay, so if you kind of understand that that's what we're doing, then it gives you a little bit more of a kind of understanding of how you will then ultimately be applying your activity to each stage, right? So let's put AIDA in terms that you can probably relate to more clearly. So just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to talk about this in the context of a marketing campaign that just operates on one platform. So I'm going to use a Meta campaign as an example, simply because I think it has actually quite a nice, elegant mechanism now within Advantage Plus campaigns that will allow you to just apply your creative to each of these AIDA steps. And so I'm going to describe it in that terms. Think about this as, selling let's say it's a premium sort of lifestyle product. Doesn't really matter what it is, but if you can picture whatever you're picturing, just think about it in these sort of terms. So the first A is that's awareness or attention, right? So the customer, your potential customer, they have no knowledge that you as a brand exist. They don't know about your product. So the first thing that you need to do is grab their attention, right? And so how you grab their attention is typically that is going to be some what we often refer to as top of the funnel awareness content or your kind of prospecting content, whatever it might be. But what that is it's got to be something that has a fairly quickly creates an emotional pull, right? So what you do is you show the lifestyle content. You without really getting too deep into trying to describe the features and going for a hard sell, all you're doing is you're showing the customer how they will feel using this product. And so you've got to have decided who your ideal customer is, what your ideal customer profile, and you create your kind of awareness content in a way that shows that customer an aspirational yet feels attainable version of themselves. So it's going to be lifestyle, it's going to be video, it's going to be probably 15 to 30 seconds of someone who seems to be really, really happy using your product in a setting that your target audience can recognize as something that they can potentially either they already do or they can kind of achieve, right? So that's your first A. So once you've got someone's attention, the next thing is that you've essentially what's happening in their brain is they're giving you permission to tell them a little bit more about your product. And so this is where you can start to talk a little bit more about the features and what this actually does. So in that first stage, you're essentially selling to the heart, right? And so this is where you also sell to the head. You start to explain that, this isn't just going to make you feel good. It's actually a practical purchase as well. And how you position that practical purchase is going to depend on what you're selling, right? You might have some content that dives into certain features or the quality of the manufacturing or the provenance of the product, right? Like, is it something that is really, really kind of artisan produced and that it will kind of, you are right to be interested in it because it doesn't just look great, but actually it is something that has been made with so much care that the detail, the stitching, whatever it is, that is something that you can kind of buy into as something that will support your initial attraction to that product. So again, content here. Video is good. Sometimes you might take people to more detailed landing pages. Actually, if you look at Kickstarter campaigns, a lot of good Kickstarter campaigns get this sort of really well. So once you get through to the Kickstarter page, after you've seen some, you've had your attention piqued by something, you click through to Kickstarter, you see the layout of that page. Does a very good job of explaining the features and really kind of supporting that sort of interest stage, right? Also things like kind of infographic-y type content. Carousels are great for, you can have an image per kind of core feature that you're leading into. Customer kind of swipe through these, they learn a bit more about it. However you choose to do it, you just got to make sure that you are kind of meeting those needs, so that you can't just assume that someone sees a product, likes it and comes through and buy it. What they will then do is go, all right, I've seen this product, that looks cool, but is it right for me? So what you're doing in the interest stage is you're starting to explain to them, you know what, this really is right for you. So if you've done a good job with awareness and interest, you should actually have now a significant chunk of people who are kind of almost ready to pull the trigger and make this purchase, right? But we're not quite there yet. So the D in AIDA, that stands for decision. I've been made aware of this. The features seem to stack up, but there are two things that are still actually going on in my brain, right? One is that I'm just really looking for something to reinforce the decision. Just make sure that this is actually going to be a good purchase. You know, I like the look of it. It seems like it's going to meet my needs, but I just need that final kind of nudge. Convince me that I'm not wasting my money here. But also, on the flip side of that, you're kind of looking for reasons not to make that purchase, because we've all got finite amount of resource, like finite amount of disposable income, and we have an infinite range of possibilities on what to spend it on. So we've got to be, depending on how big an investment it actually is that you're asking someone to make, and how big a percentage of their disposable income that represents, the chances are they are going to need more convincing. Doesn't matter who they are, they're going to need more convincing. And also they're going to be looking for reasons why, maybe I could save that money and not purchase this if, there's something fundamentally wrong with it. So what you're doing in the decision stage is you are providing people with social proof and supporting their decision to make a purchase and convincing them that it is actually going to be a good purchase. This is things like you can talk about money back guarantees. You can provide social proof. If you've got Trustpilot reviews, lift some quotes from those, show your Trustpilot score, make sure that you've got content that shows those. That type of content, you can quite easily get that into little kind of static images, carousels that you put into those kind of ad types on social. Whatever you're doing to kind of de-risk that purchase really is what you're kind of putting into the kind of the D stage content, or the kind of the signpost for D. So the final element, that second A, that is action. Right? What you are doing is you are signposting the action. So you've done all of this work through awareness, interest. You've removed any kind of objections to purchasing. You've reinforced that this is going to be a good purchase decision. And the final thing you need to do is actually make sure that sale goes to you, particularly if you are one of a number of retailers. You've done all of the work and they go off and they then just, they're not linked through to buy from you. So they go off to Google, they find one of your competitors. So what you've got to do is make sure that you have a final, it's going to be a collection ad for most of us, right? That is within that campaign. And that is very, very clearly signposting people through to the product that they've seen. Now, one mistake that I see quite a lot in collection ads is they'll just allow the whole kind of collection to be shown there. What you actually want to do really is you think about the creative that you've used through the kind of the AI and the D stages. Let's say you're a fashion brand and you have created a campaign that is targeting women between the ages of 30 and 50. And all of the content that you've shown is reflecting these women and their lifestyle, right? But your entire catalogue also has kids ranges. You've got ranges aimed at men, whatever. Don't go and mug yourself with your product carousels and let it just kind of show anything. Narrow it down to a collection that represents the product range that you have been showing through those other stages, through the A, I, and the D. So the final A is for action. That's your call to action, and just make sure that you are not ignoring that and that you are optimizing that as well as possible. Now, some of you might have listened to all that and thought, you know what, Dan, that's obvious. We do this, right? Of course we're doing top, mid and bottom of funnel content, and we're setting up our campaigns that exactly like that. Good for you. But it is just worth kind of sanity checking what you're doing against this marketing first principle. And this for me, this AIDA really is a fundamental like marketing first principle. It explains exactly how your customer's brain is working when they're choosing to purchase from you. Now, I have lost count of the number of times I've audited campaigns and I've found that one or more of the A, the I, the D or the A is poorly supported by the content that is being put out, or more often than not, all stages of that are actually mashed up in a confusing way into single pieces of creative, and people are taking a kind of a scattergun approach to how their campaign is structured, or they are simply just taking this fairly common approach. And actually, if you look at a lot of the content that is put out there about how to optimize your ads, they're talking about looking very granularly about a single piece of creative rather than considering where it fits into this kind of whole campaign. So yes, this is the thing about these marketing first principles, right? They seem obvious and it feels like we're doing them, but until you actually go back and check what you're doing against one of these fundamental truths of marketing, you may find that actually you've missed a trick, or there is some optimization still left to do. And so most of my consultancy activity, when I'm first asked to kind of look at, really, Dan, how well are we doing? Are there opportunities to kind of optimize? I will use this, and I'll use other fundamentals like, have we got actually figured out what our ideal customer profile looks like? And I'll apply a number of these, and quite often the gaps will just be obvious. And so just this example that I've talked about today, with just a meta campaign, I have applied this technique multiple times when I've been reviewing kind of what work e-commerce retailers of all different shapes and sizes have been doing within their marketing. And I have significant number of success stories, right, where we've seen ROASs go from hovering around a 2 ROAS, which was a loss-making campaign, up to 8, which was a profitable campaign. And quite often you don't even actually need to invest in creating a whole load of new content. Quite often it's just a case of, we haven't been focused enough. We haven't thought about our customer profile and whether we are actually meeting the AIDA kind of needs of that customer in order to make a purchase. So in summary, think about these marketing first principles. This is probably the first one of many that I will talk about on this channel. But go away, look at your campaigns, whether they're on Meta, whether they're in PMax on Google, whether it's content that you're putting out on TikTok, or whether it is actually a combination of all of these, because we know that our customers are actually, they are everywhere, and they are not religiously sticking to a single channel. And so just figure out whether you are actually signposting their journey well enough from not knowing about your brand to becoming aware of your brand, to becoming interested enough to think I might actually want to purchase from you, to having their objections removed and their decision supported, to then signposting where they can actually click to make a purchase from you. And I guarantee that vast numbers of you who do this will actually find that there are some obvious optimizations that you've missed. Now, if you find this useful and you do actually apply any of these learnings, I would love for you to just comment on this video and let me know kind of what you did and how it helped you. Also, subscribe to the channel. I will, as I say, be talking about more of these marketing sort of first principles and how I apply them to the consultancy work that I am doing. And if I've been doing this for 28 years and am still applying these lessons today, I think there's got to be something in them, right? So, as I say, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you find anything useful here, and I will see you next time.